Good evening, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, we are back here on Miami Total Football Radio, the show. It's a little bit later than what we usually start, but that's okay because we've got a very good episode lined up. A lot of good topics here as Inter Miami approaches the start of what the team is hoping is a very successful playoff campaign. Joining me on this episode of Miami Total Football Radio, the show. No cool shirts today. I'm not gonna rip the shirt. The shirt's fine, but it's not one of your cooler shirts that you normally wear. You've heard him chuckle if you're listening to this. Of course, we're talking about Island Jose, aka Cinco, aka Jose Armando Rodriguez. Joining me, Franco Panizo, here on this episode. It's been 2 weeks since we last came on. We were supposed to have one last week, but our schedules could not align. I'm a dad now. Maybe we might have a special guest later on this podcast. The smallest special guest we might ever have. But anyway, we'll leave that for another time. Jose, my friend, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. I had a wonderful morning. We went to training. Right after training, I had the best milanesa in South Florida. We went and had breakfast. Well, yeah, it felt like lunch, really. I'm not going to lie. But we were off to a great start. A lot of work as well with somebody missing training. But, when I had that milanesa in front of me, I felt like there was no trouble in the world. It was amazing. Petro Gourmet, one of my favorite spots. And yeah, we were off to a great start. So now I'm ready to close the day out with the pod, having nice conversations with people. Let the comments come in. We'll see if we agree on things. I have voted for Messi already, so all the Messi fans that are judging me because of Buanga, I remain and I stand by my vote from last year. It was solid. This year, it's all for Messi, though.
Jose did have a very giant milanesa, and this place that we went to, because some people are going to think it's Argentine, natural tendency these days. It was not an Argentine restaurant that we popped in at after training today. We usually go to one of two. It's either the Honduran one that Jose and Andrea recommend. It's close to the training facility right there on Commercial Boulevard. Or we go to one that's a little bit north of the training facility before Atlantic, which is, I think it's on Powerline, which is the Venezuelan spot.
Yes.
I haven't taken you guys to a proper
Peruvian place.
Oh, we will.
There is a Peruvian place around, I think. I don't know
there
if it's
are,
good,
of course, but I don't know if it's good. The ones that are good would take you guys further away from where you guys need to be. But we'll check.
Is there any good Peruvian food for breakfast?
Yes, empanadas, the whole thing. Yeah, but don't you worry, my friend. Before the year's over, we'll get there. But yeah, Jose had the giant milanesa. He was definitely getting ripped by our fellow.
I was judged.
Fernando Petrocelli.
I was judged.
It was a giant milanesa. It did smell really good and it did look really good. I'm gonna have it.
It was amazing. But Petro and Andrea, by the way, my beloved wife, that should support me no matter what, they both were judging me. You were just, not bad, but you didn't support me.
I did say it smelled good. I did tell you it smelled good.
I don't know if that qualifies as support, but regardless, Petro was judging me, bro. He was judging me.
It was giant. Kalabur here in the comment section says, PS5 Jose, it's playoff time. And speaking of excitement, Kala, I literally was thinking about you before the show. It's been a long time since I've seen your name in the comment section. Too long, to be honest, because you've been a regular for so many years, and then the last few months you've kind of disappeared. You poofed into thin air. But anyway, we have plenty to talk about that are not milanesas. We have Lionel Messi winning the Golden Boot, sealing that victory. We have Inter Miami versus Nashville coming up here in the playoffs. We also have Inter Miami versus Nashville in the most recent game, the regular season finale, to talk about. We'll quickly touch on Jordi Alba's retirement because that obviously was talked about a little bit since we last recorded. And we're going to get into a good, juicy debate that the comment section is already foaming at the mouth over here. and it's who will start in goal for Inter Miami in this playoff series. Will it be Rocco Rios Novo, who has been the surprise starter as of late, or will it be Oscar Ustari? We'll save that debate for later in the show, but as you can see, Mike V5878 says, in Rocco, we trust. All right, so give us a like, a share, a comment, a subscribe, a review, all of the above if you have not already. I know it's late in the evening to do something like that, but it's super simple, super quick, and it helps us out tremendously. We are, 6 seasons in counting here on Miami Total Football Radio, the only podcast, video podcast maybe, that can say it's done that from a journalistic
Yes.
seat. From a journalistic seat. I know there's some really good fan video podcasts out there. Anyway, Jose, before we look forward, you know me, I like to look back. And Inter Miami this past weekend finished the regular season with a 5-2 victory away to Nashville SC. Lionel Messi scored a hat trick. That, combined with the 2 goals that he scored in the previous game, a 4-0 home win against Atlanta United that took place during the international break that Messi made himself available for, well, that sealed it. Sorry, Dennis Boanga. No golden boot for you. Jose's corazoncito is broken in half, but it's okay. There are other titles and trophies to compete for. This is it. This is Messi's final stats of the regular season. He finishes 5 goals ahead of Dennis Boanga and Sam Sturridge for the lead. So those 5 goals that I just mentioned, the brace against Atlanta United, the hat trick against Nashville, prove the difference. Messi finishes with 29 goals. Assists, he's tied for first with Anders Dreyer of San Diego FC, the expansion team. Messi and Dreyer with 19 apiece. Jose, we're not going to go into it in great detail because I think we've already done so, and we will do so again when the announcement is official. But those numbers clearly point to Messi being the MVP. I know you touched on it, that was your vote. It's my vote, but that is who the MVP is.
Yeah. No, I think there's no doubt. This year in particular, I think he won it maybe a month and a half ago or 2 months ago. The thing is that Boanga scored 8 goals in September, and LAFC was pretty much in the run for first place in the West. But, those 2 games that LAFC played during the FIFA window pretty much took the air out of it because they had a lot of international call-ups. Boanga was with Gabon. So I felt like there was, it needed to be an amazing performance from Boanga to pretty much compete with Lionel Messi, which didn't happen.
Never had any chance, man. Messi was taking it. Messi, like we've said before, if Messi took it last year, this year it's a no-brainer. You might be able to hear the special guest in the background. I don't know if the microphone.
I think I did. I did.
She's back there. So she might pop in just to say hello to the Miami Total Football Radio audience. She's been wanting to say hello. We'll save it again for later. Jose, so Messi, we know where he finishes. Let's see where Inter Miami finishes in the regular season. 3rd place in the Eastern Conference, a 19-win, 8-draw, 7-loss record, a whopping 81 goals scored, 55 given up. The goal score number is pretty impressive, especially when you consider that Luis Suarez he dipped in form this year. So pretty impressive, that number, but it's what you expect from a team that has Lionel Messi on it, at least in Major League Soccer. Jose.
Yeah.
So this past weekend, they beat Nashville. That's how they punctuate their regular season. But despite the flattering scoreline, the game was not that convincing, at least not on the balance of the 90 minutes. Inter Miami struggled big time in the first half against its future opponent in the playoff series, the first round. Concerning. There were concerning traits, patterns of play. Nashville repeatedly found good scoring opportunities. They did not put the ball in the back of the net with the type of efficiency that they would have liked. They weren't very clinical. They wasted opportunities, and it was a bunch of guilty parties. Sam Sturridge, Hani Mukhtar. They were all pretty much guilty. Alex Mule, I think, had one, although I wouldn't expect Mule to put one away more often than not. Jose, on the balance of things, so we'll dissect the second half. We'll dissect the changes. We'll dissect the upcoming playoff series. But does that first half leave you more concerned than the second half leaves you feeling good about Inter Miami's chances? Or does that second half put you at ease that they figured out Nashville and that they'll do the right things, they'll push the right buttons come playoff time later this week?
Yeah, no, I'm not concerned really because I think that actually is going to benefit Inter Miami. You know, the fact that they know for a fact that they can go into this series thinking that they are way better than Nashville. I think what we saw over the weekend was more of the same. You know, it was about Inter Miami not playing at a high level, but having Messi figure things out for them. I think, you know, that first half, the first goal for Inter Miami was pretty much, you know, completely, you know, it's something that you never expected to see from Inter Miami because Nashville was all over them. You know, all the opportunities in the first half, and I think Mascherano did acknowledge this in the press conference. You know, the first half was 2-1, but it should have been at least 4-1, you know, against Inter Miami. If that was the case, I don't know if Messi is able to bring them back. So I think that conversation will happen this week. It needs to happen, you know, between the coaching staff and the players. And that first half is actually going to help them. And that's one of the reasons why I think they are going to move past Nashville in the first round.
So we're already going with predictions. I agree with you that I think if it was going to happen, it's good that it happens in the regular season finale because then you can adjust, you can tweak and fine tune the details. But it was concerning. You know, Nashville found a lot of success down their right flank, Inter Miami's left flank, in that space that Jordi Alba tends to vacate when he bombs forward, runs forward, gets involved into the attack to try to associate with Messi and whip in crosses. A lot of early crosses from Nashville, a lot of early crosses, and it led to a lot of half chances or good chances that, like you said, were not put away. Different game or more clinical efforts in front of goal. Inter Miami could have been down big time. They weren't. Messi actually opens the scoring in this one with a moment of brilliance like only he can. He brings the ball out of the air down smoothly with his chest in between a pair of Nashville markers, dribbles forward, and from long distance places a pinpoint low curler into the back of the net, just inside the left post. Un golazo, golazazazo, probably definitely his best of the night. And that gave Inter Miami an injection of some calmness into the game because after that they started to create a little bit more before the end of the first half. But all the same, then Nashville, and when Inter Miami was playing its best in that first half, at the end is when Nashville finally gets the breakthrough and scores twice to take the lead. Now the second half, what happened? Was it just a matter of Inter Miami improving, tweaking, fine-tuning? Was it a matter of Nashville getting away from what led them to be successful? Before we dive into it, the X's and O's and our analysis, so let's listen to Javier Mascherano because he talks about what he saw from his vantage point there on the sidelines.
Bueno, no, creo que al final es la determinación de asumir más riesgos. lo podemos llamar intensidad, lo podemos llamar eh, determinación. Creo que en el primer tiempo estuvimos dubitativos, ellos aprovecharon, en muchas situaciones nos quedábamos a mitad de camino, no íbamos ni hacia adelante ni hacia atrás, y en el fútbol cuando te quedas a mitad de camino eh, no sirve demasiado. Creo que en el segundo tiempo, cuando dimos o decidimos jugar unos metros más adelante, fue cuando mejor nos sentimos. Y bueno, no tiene que ver con el cansancio, de hecho nuestra mejor versión fue en el segundo tiempo. Y creo que tiene que ver con el convencimiento, nos tiene que servir eh, de, de experiencia lo que hemos vivido hoy, porque claramente no nos podemos engañar. El partido en el primer tiempo era, digamos, Nashville se podría haber ido con un resultado mucho más abultado. Eh, y bueno, eso es lo que tiene. Ahora entramos en una fase decisiva, y cada detalle, cada momento cuenta. Entonces no podemos volver a caer en esos errores.
So to translate very quickly, he talks about them not being decisive enough in terms of playing one way or the other, that they got kind of stuck in between either pressing high up the field or sitting back. Said it wasn't a matter of fatigue or anything from a physical standpoint. It's just about where they were positioning and how aggressive they were, and that changed in the second half, that they became more aggressive. They pushed their lines higher, pressed up the field. Jose, I don't know if you agree with it fully, or if you do. Curious to hear your thoughts. I will quickly say that while I do agree with him that Inter Miami was more aggressive in their press in the second half, and we can dive into all the X's and O's here, I also think Nashville got away from what it was doing very well. And I don't think it just had to do with Inter Miami's press. I just think Nashville tried to play a different game, where in the first half, they were looking to have possession, to try to find spaces and hit those early crosses. In the second half, with understanding, with good reasoning, you could understand the thought process. They try to hit more of a counter-attacking game because they were protecting their lead. And we know Inter Miami is susceptible, débil, weak when it comes to transitions defensively. But I don't think Nashville was sharp and as good in that aspect of play. What were your thoughts watching the second half unfold?
Well, no, I agree with Macherano because I feel like the first half was not necessarily a great effort from Nashville, but more, a situation where Inter Miami didn't come into the game with the right mindset. It felt like they were scoreboard watching. They were wondering what happens with Cincinnati. Does this game really matter? Are we really getting third place in the supporter shield? What does that really mean for us? It felt like they were not in the game, and then it hit them that they were down, that it was not a good look, that they were not having a good performance. Um, and then they were able to turn things around. So I think it was more about Inter Miami being relaxed and not really playing the game. And in the second half, they did step up a little bit, and I think that helped them. Obviously, Nashville, can, yeah, I think they can take pride on knowing exactly what to do against Inter Miami, and I think we're going to see a lot of that in the upcoming games, whether it's 2 or 3. I think they have the tools to put Miami in trouble, but I don't know if they are at the level of winning 2 games, or yeah, winning 2 out of 3 games against this team. It's going to be tough for them to do that, but they do have the tools to do it.
At hacker-jz6mm, that is a hacker username if I ever saw one, says winning against Miami is not rocket science of a deal. Just mark 4 players on Messi and don't even let Messi touch the ball the whole 90 plus minutes. Then they can simply win against Miami. Or if you
Well, that's
dedicate
easier said
4
than
players,
done.
yeah, I was gonna say, if you dedicate 4 players to Messi, then there's going to be other players that are wide open. I mean, we haven't seen that gamble from any team, because you probably would suffer in some way, shape, or form. But we have seen 2. We have seen 3 players crowd Messi. And in this game, in the first half, Jose, I mean, aside from that goal in the end of the first half where Inter Miami picked it up, I think Baltasar Rodriguez had one that he clips wide of the right post. When they started to pick it up, other than that, Inter Miami, like you said, came out pretty flat. And Luis Suarez looked very poor in those opening 45. I mean, over the course of the 90 minutes, he didn't look particularly great, which is concerning for Inter Miami as they start this playoff run. But I will disagree with you in the second half. Yes, Inter Miami picked it up. I agree with Mascherano in that sense, but I also think Nashville just got away from what they were doing very well. Nashville was finding the spaces. They were playing. Estaban jugando, buscando, ball to feet, moving the ball around. Second half, they looked to do that counterattacking, which again, we know, I'll repeat, is Inter Miami's weakness. Yes, it works. But it got away from what they were doing well. Instead of continuing to play, they went to protect the lead, and then they just weren't sharp enough in their counters. And that allowed a more aggressive Inter Miami to find its way. Of course, Inter Miami also benefits from a handball thanks to a Honduran. Andy Nahar. These Hondurans always messing it up for their respective team. No, I'm just kidding, Jose. I'm just kidding. You know, we have a lot of love for you here on Miami Futbol Radio. But Andy Nahar, your compatriot, cost Nashville with a handball. Bit of unlucky.
Was it a handball, really? I mean, like a penalty type of handball? It was hard for him to stay away from it. Don't you think?
His arm was outstretched, though.
So, I mean, I think it's a 50-50 call, but you can't complain either way.
Nah, ya comenzó. Ya comenzó el abogado de Honduras. Jose Armando, the Honduran lawyer, has begun defending his countrymen.
Look, well, he better stay away from that during the international window in November.
There you go. Yeah, Honduras has a World Cup to qualify for.
Yes, yes.
I thought it was unlucky because Luis Suarez just gets a toe poke on it or just nips the ball, and then that raises it into his arm. So it was unlucky, but his arm is outstretched. For me, at first glance, I'm not going to lie, I thought it hit him in the shoulder, but from one of the camera angles, you could see clearly it hit him more here. So that, to me, is a penalty kick. From there, Nashville never really had much of a response. Messi does Messi things. Inter Miami finds more space. Ian Frey came into the game pretty sharp. Liked what I saw from him at right back because Chelo actually got the start in this one. Velasco Segovia came into the game and began as a central midfielder. Sergio Busquets dropped into the center back role, which brought back memories of last year at this time of the year when Tata Martino put Sergio Busquets as one of three center backs in the back five. Well, there's no back five for Javier Mascherano, still a 4-4-2, but we saw Busquets play there. And I know you're going to reference it because at the beginning of the year, in one of our first chats, if not our very first chat with Javier Mascherano, you asked him, do you see Busi as a central midfielder or could you see him playing center back? And Mascherano pretty much said, paraphrasing here, that he almost exclusively saw him as a central midfielder for this 2025 campaign. That maybe, barring an exception here or there, he could play center back, but he saw him in the middle of the park. In this game, when Inter Miami was looking to gain some control in terms of possession, they brought on Segovia as a central midfielder and pushed Busi to center back. Is that a sign? Is that a tactical wrinkle, Jose, in your opinion, of something we could see in the playoffs, or was this just circumstance based on who was available and what was happening in the game? At that point, Inter Miami was up. No, they were tied 2-2 when the substitutions come in. And then they score, right? They take the lead 3-2. And then right from there, there's more changes that get made. Segovia comes out of that central midfield spot, goes back to a more wide spot, while Yannick Bright comes in to help protect the lead. So, Jose, is Busi at center back a viable option, in your opinion, from Javier Mascherano during the playoffs, or was this just a one-off at the end of the
No, I think we'll see it again. I think we saw it in previous games as well. It's not something that we see for the first time. Now, do I think it's effective? I don't think it's effective. I mean, can you imagine, like, Busi playing as a center back against Cincinnati? I mean, that's not the recipe for success that you're looking for. That's not a good matchup. Yes, Busi can, give you a lot of. He can really help the build up, especially if you want to
Composure.
go, yeah, all the way from the back. If you want to do that, then yes, he's obviously going to help you. But especially on a road game, I don't think we're going to see it against Nashville in Nashville again. We might see it at home, but I don't like it. I honestly don't like it. I think this is a different scenario from last year because if you have help around Busi, let's say you have Noah on the left and then you have Peluca on the right, then and he stands in the middle, then maybe I can see it because I know he has help. But I don't think in a particular situation, especially during the playoffs, where one mistake can pretty much finish the season for you. I just don't like it. I don't like it, but I think we'll see it again. Yeah.
So why do you think Mascherano? This is just una pregunta futbolística, just a soccer standpoint question. Why do you think Mascherano did it? Right, because he wasn't asked after the match, dropping Busi into that center back role and bringing in Telasco Segovia as a central midfielder. Because again, not things we've seen often this year. We might have seen it here and there in random moments, but not consistently for either one of them. So why do you think that was his choice when the game was at 2-2 and Inter Miami was still looking for a goal?
Well, the way I see it is, that Mascherano wants to be a little bit more aggressive. We know he's a defensive coach,
I agree. I
so
agree fully.
that is
Good
him
read,
telling
good read.
you, okay, I'm being aggressive here. I think it goes down to that. Now, does it really make a difference? I don't see it really because yes, Telasco is going to cover more ground, but Telasco is not going to feed Messi inside the box or Suarez inside the box. I would rather have Busi step forward a little bit and maybe bring somebody behind him, and then I think Busi can find Messi anywhere on the field, and I know he can connect also with Suarez. So look, I like Telasco Segovia, but I don't like him in that place, especially on this team, because we know how it works. You need to look for Messi all the time. Yannick Bright said it the other day when he was asked about, playing with Messi. And, one of the things that Busi spoke about Messi with him was you always try to find Messi, So for Telasco Segovia, that's difficult because he's that type of player that will look for everybody else, and he's forced to only look for Messi for the most
Right.
part. So
Right.
it's
More
a
of a
different spot.
combination player.
Yeah,
More of a
whether when he
combination
plays on the
player.
wing is different, but when he plays in the middle of the field, then it's harder for him.
Se busca asociar. He looks to associate with whoever he's got
Right.
around him. He's just got that. That's his style of play. That's the way he feels the game. So I agree with you. To go into my question, that I think it was Mascherano trying to adopt a more attacking or aggressive posture. Again, the game is 2-2, and Miami was still looking to win the game to give themselves the best chance of taking that second place spot, which they don't. FC Cincinnati prevails. And I think it was a different wrinkle, something he's adopting here late, because normally we've seen him just go defensive minded. And in this one, he tried something different to look attacking minded. Is it something we could see?
I think this series is going to be a huge test for Mascherano because
I mean,
look, I think Nashville is going to it's going to find a way eventually. They're going to, whether it's in the second game, because I counted the first one as the regular season as the first game. Whether it's in the second game or in the fourth game, both coaches are going to have to move pieces around. Because when you play somebody so many times, the Messi element obviously is out of the picture. I think there's also a situation with Nashville and Inter Miami that I think it favors Nashville on the right side, not because it's Andy Nahar, but, they usually attack from that side of the field. just like Inter Miami does it from the left. And sometimes Ian on the right, when he starts, Nashville almost every time goes through the right. So who's going to win that battle? Is it going to be Inter Miami being a little bit more cautious, or are they going to be on the attack permanently? And how Nashville is going to take advantage of that space that Jordi Alba leaves behind? So I think this is a game, particularly on Friday, for Noah Allen. And I know we're not there with the lineups and everything.
I was going to say, you're jumping ahead here.
But I think Noah, this is a good game for him.
So we'll circle back to that thought as we're starting to transition actually into that Friday's game, first match of this best of 3 series. But I just want to round out my thought on the Bussi at center back. I agree with you wholeheartedly, not only about Mascherano's posture and what it meant for him in terms of his tactics. I also agree with you that I think you can't play Bussi there for longer than, maybe 15, maybe 20 minutes is pushing it, because we've seen him in midfield get exposed just on one-on-one. And I'm not even going to say dribbling. It's just one-on-one athleticism. He gets toasted like a traffic cone. He doesn't offer much resistance. You put him at center back in a back 4, not a back 5 like last year where he had that extra security, that extra coverage. I think you're just asking for trouble. I think you're really taking a giant risk because, again, from an athletic standpoint, someone pushes the ball to one of his sides and tries to race behind him. I don't think Bussi's going to be able to provide much resistance there. Now, again, he gives you the composure, the calmness on the ball, the ability to build out of the back. And we know Inter Miami's center back position, that center back partnership, tandem, pareja, pairing, whatever you want to call it. It has been a revolving door this year. I don't think Bussi is the solution. And I don't think Mascherano necessarily sees it as a solution either. I think this was just, given the context of the game, what we saw. Could we see it again? I think we could, but I just don't think it's a permanent solution. Now, once Inter Miami goes up, we saw more of what we normally see from Mascherano. Yannick Bright comes into central midfield alongside Rodrigo de Paul, Velasco Segovia out wide. Jose, I have a soundbite from Rodrigo de Paul, who spoke to us earlier today about his level of play. I'm going to save it for a little bit later because we're going to start the transition. We attended training today, and the biggest news of the morning, besides your giant Milanesa, was the giant absence from Inter Miami during the 15 minutes that are open to journalists, press, media, and some people that like to get tattoos on their legs. Lionel Messi was not in attendance, at least while we were there. The information came out later, several hours later, that he had minor back discomfort, back pain. He's expected to play on Friday, so at least that's what the information is as of today. But that information comes from Inter Miami spokesperson. Jose, do we have any reason to question this absence? Do we have any reason to believe that it's just minor back discomfort hours after the initial inquiry?
I think you always take the information with a grain of salt, when
it comes from the team.
Right. Yeah. I think you still have to wait and see what happens in the rest of the week. If he's available on Thursday, if he's not available on Thursday. We obviously needed something, just to, calm things down a little bit. I thought, my opinion was that, and is, that information.
He's tired of carrying these other 10 guys on the team, and his back is in pain. He's hurting. Está cargando demasiado con este equipo. Demasiado. So his back is hurting. He needs an off day.
No, I think actually that is true though. That is true. You know, I don't I don't know if we have to stop there, but it's true. I mean, this team will go nowhere, you know, without Messi's
We'll
29
talk about
goals.
that. We'll talk about that when we
Yeah, I
continue
mean,
to transition.
seriously. I mean, but yeah, I think the information needed to come out a little bit earlier, you know, just to calm things down. At the end of the day, we get what we get. You know, you always have to take it with a grain of salt because, you know, I think nothing is definitive unless you hear it directly from a doctor or the player himself. Even the player himself, you know, might feel a certain way, and you know he might go out and tell you, yeah, it's fine, I'm good, and then he's really injured, you know, or on the verge of getting injured. So I think we have to take it with a grain of salt and then see how the week goes. You know, I think Thursday is going to be very telling. We have the initial information now, and now we work from that and see if we can confirm or not with whatever happens on Thursday, not only during training, but obviously Mascherano is going to be able to provide more information as to what happened, when exactly did he started feeling this discomfort. Was it after the game, during the game, or you know the day prior, which would have been Monday?
You know they
There's
watch,
still a lot
Jose.
of information, a lot of questions.
You know they watch, Jose. So don't give away your questions, man. Don't give away your questions. You
Well,
know they
those,
watch. They're gonna start preparing. You're letting them do their homework.
but I mean
Eh,
that's pretty obvious. We're gonna
yeah,
ask
but
those
still, just don't
questions.
make it easier for them. Don't make it easier for them. Pedri.potter.free speech. He's changed his name a bit here. He says speculation begins. All right, so I'm gonna go in a quick little parenthesis, a little side tangent. And Pedri Potter, the speculation begins because there's a lack of clear-cut information. If Messi's not there for the first 15 minutes of training, obviously that raises eyebrows and that raises some alarm bells. So then the questions come. And then we don't get answers to the questions until hours later. So that just doesn't pass the sniff test if you're a journalist. Now, given Inter Miami's history with Messi and the penchant for secrecy, given that Inter Miami and all professional sports teams these days have PR people in place with a vested interest in doing what's best for the organization, they don't always tell us the truth, right? So it is our duty to process the information and relay it to you guys. But that doesn't mean that we believe it. And that doesn't mean that it is actually factual. Maybe it is the case that it is factual here. Maybe Messi did have some slight back pain. Or maybe there's something else going on, which, as we've seen in the past, tends to be the case more often than not when it comes to Messi. I have no idea. I have no inside information on this one. It is very fresh. I definitely, of course, I'm sure like you, Jose, was working to find out more details throughout the day. I don't have inside information. It's just my sensation, just my supposition. Mi suposición, I think Messi will be available Friday. If he's not in training on Thursday, then be very, very concerned. But I imagine he'll be there on Thursday. I don't know what it was today that caused him to miss. We'll see what they say as the week unfolds. Maybe he was out doing a commercial. I have no idea. I'm just speculating here. But that's what happens when there's a penchant for secrecy and when things unfold the way they do.
Yeah, basically what you're saying is trust. You know, the trust is not there because of the track record. You know, it's not like when you get a statement from some of the other major sports in the country. You know, yeah, you're still gonna have to do the homework and try to find out if there's something else to it. But for the most part, when you see Tyreek get arrested, you know for a fact what happened, and at least you know what we need to know. When Tua gets hurt, we know exactly what happened. When Tyler Hero got hurt just a few weeks ago, we kind of had a better sense of you know the recovery and everything. And with Messi, we've never had that. You know,
Shrouded in mystery.
yeah, we've never had that. You know, even if we get it right now and it's real and it's 100% right, then it's gonna be hard for us to believe everything at once. We might, if this is the case right now, and this is the first step moving forward, then I feel like this is where we start building. But as it stands right now, I think almost everybody, real reporters that go and cover the team, will take the information and will look around for more to try to confirm. I mean, I think that would be the wisest thing to do. Right.
Of course. And Petty Potter comes back here and says, find information as a so-called journalist through your imaginary sources. So you're saying find information through imaginary sources. So then that would be almost the same as speculating. But you say don't speculate. That's not journalism. Listen, we are allowed to speculate. That's part of the gig. We can converse here and say, this doesn't seem like the truth. It doesn't pass the sniff test. We don't know, but we can talk about it and raise questions around it. That is fair game. That's actually, what we do when we're in press conferences sometimes, right? We question what is being said. You don't take everything just at face value, because if that's the case, then you're just a mouthpiece for the organization or whoever or whatever you're covering. Anyway, tangent, side note, journalism talk aside, Jose, Inter Miami versus Nashville this Friday at home at Chase Stadium. Best of 3 series. We've touched on some of the aspects of what we can expect. We know Nashville has an attacking trio that can cause you some damage. But overall, pound for pound, is it possible that Nashville could do what Atlanta United did last year? Very quickly, yes or no? We'll dive into the whys.
Oh no, it's possible. It is possible. I think that let's not forget Hani Mukhtar is, for the past few years he has been a very good player in MLS. So, he's still pretty dangerous. And Surridge, he was right there in the Golden Boot race. So yes, absolutely.
Sorry, I'm laughing because the music is 4 in the comment section says, no saben hablar español. Bueno, mi amigo tiene un username, un usuario en inglés. And he's saying, no saben hablar español. Yes, we do know how to speak Spanish. Sí, sabemos hablar español, pero este programa es en gran parte en inglés. This is a large part an English speaking show. We try to get the Spanish one, maybe later in the week, maybe on Thursday. We'll see.
Yes.
So I agree with you that the front 3 between Sturridge, Mukhtar, and Schaffelberg have the capability of inflicting real damage and pain onto this Inter Miami defense, which is shaky at times. But I don't know if player for player and on the bench they have enough. Like last year against Atlanta United, Brad Guzan stood on his head, who, by the way, he just retired officially, ended his long career. I don't know if Nashville has that in them. I don't know. It would take, honestly, I'm just giving you my prediction here. I don't think in this round we see Inter Miami get eliminated. I think Inter Miami will go through. I'm not going to say that it'll happen without some struggles. I think the defense will give up goals. But then it just comes back to what we've said for much of this year. It's about Inter Miami outscoring you with the X factor that is Messi and the players around him. And I think that Inter Miami will get the job done. They'll take their blows, they'll take their licks, but they'll have the quality in the final third with an inspired Messi, and they'll get through this round. I don't see the upset in this round. But yes, I do think that Nashville has enough to scare you a little bit.
Yeah. I think if we have a high scoring game, nobody should be surprised on Friday. But then again, it's if we go that route, then it's going to be about who's going to take advantage of their opportunities. And when you have Messi on your side, then most likely Messi is not going to miss, and we saw Nashville miss a lot in the first half this past weekend. So I give into Miami the edge, but if for some reason Nashville is having a good night on Friday, that obviously puts a lot of pressure on to the next game. I do believe we're going to have a third game, though. You know,
You do think it goes to 3?
Yes, I do believe it's going to go to 3. I
Interesting.
think I still believe into Miami struggles on the road. I don't know. I think the sense of urgency would be there for Nashville if in the second game, and I would expect them to win that game. So that's why I think if there's going to be a third game, it's going to be a completely different game than what we saw over the weekend. I see 3 games. I see 3 games in the series.
Interesting. I could see 3 games, but if you're going to make me guess, you're going to make me predict, I say it goes 2, and I think Inter Miami takes care of business. But again, not without some struggles along the way. Jose, biggest question, of course, is the starting 11. Equipo que gana normalmente no se toca. But this team did not win because of the starting lineup. This team won because of Messi magic and then some substitutions that came in and helped make an impact against a Nashville SC team that ran out of solutions. So we're going to save goalkeeper for the end because that is the juicy one. Right back. Ian Frey or Cello again, just quickly.
Ian Frey, 100%.
Ian Frey. I agree Ian Frey gets the start. And this is not who we think should start. This is who we think Javier Mascherano goes with, just to make that exercise clear.
Yeah.
Right center back.
Peluca
Falcon. I disagree. I think it will be Gonzalo Lujan. Left center back.
Noah Allen.
So this is where we disagree because I will go now Peluca Falcon. So your center back tandem that you predict Javier Mascherano goes with, and it could be a viable option, right? Absolutely. You're saying Peluca and Allen. I am saying Lujan and Peluca Falcon. Left back, pretty clear, Jordi Alba. The midfield will start on the right side. Estadio Allende, the starter. He had a horrific miss in this game.
Yes, that was terrible.
Horrific. He's terrible. Wide open in front of goal. And somehow, in one smooth motion, he shoots the ball forward, but his leg gets in front and he stops it from rolling into the goal.
Yes.
One of the worst misses that he's had this year. And he's had,
quite a few.
Is he still the starter? Was this Matteo Silvetti, who just helped Argentina to Argentina's under-20 World Cup team get to the final of that tournament, scoring goals along the way? Is he a possibility to start there, or is it Tadeo Allende? Does Tadeo Allende have the trust of one Javier Mascherano?
No, I think Tadeo starts just because Silvetti must be exhausted. I don't think it. Well, he was not there this morning, so he's not even going to get a full week of training, and he's not Messi. He can train with other team and then play for Inter Miami and start for Inter Miami. Yeah, I don't see Silvetti. He might be coming off the bench just like he did with the national team for the most part. I think Tadeo starts. Yes.
Nick Smith -IMCF says Allende will start. Silvetti will come in as a sub. I agree with you, Jose. It'll be Allende for the first game. Doesn't mean he starts the second game. And Silvetti, due to his short week of preparation, will come off the bench.
I have a prediction.
You want to throw it out there now, or are you saving it for later?
No, I'm going to throw it out there now.
Okay.
I have a prediction. Inter Miami season, the 2025 season, second full season for Messi in MLS, is going to come down to a Tadeo Allende play.
Okay.
If he scores, they move on, and that's going to be big time. If he misses, they'll be eliminated. Mark my words.
Whether it's in this series or whatever series it is.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's...
Clip this.
There we go. It's at the 50th minute mark. There we go. And all right. Central midfielders, Jose. Pretty straightforward. Is it going to be the pairing of Rodrigo de Paul and Sergio Busquets, or is Yannick Bright, or maybe an outside option like Velasco Segovia, a possibility here?
No, I think as much as I think the team plays a lot better with Yannick Bright, I think it's gonna be DePaul and Busi.
De Paul and Busi. I agree. De Paul and Busi. The music is for says, perdón, pero no entiendo inglés, perdón, tengo que estudiar. The music is for, no entiendo, pero dice que no entiende inglés y su usuario y la imagen de su usuario es en inglés. No entiendo. I don't get it because his username and the picture, his emoji or his profile is in English too. We might have a show in Spanish on Thursday, maybe. Quizás vamos a tener un programa el jueves en la noche en español para hacer la previa, el día antes del partido. Match day -1. We might do a Spanish show. Maybe. No promises. Left side, Jose. Baltasar Rodriguez.
Yes.
Clear starter?
Baltasar.
He's taken that from Telasco Segovia.
Yes.
All right. And up top, the usual duo of Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez.
Yeah, I think the lineup is predictable at this point for Miami.
Center back is the one where you and I disagree. Right back is a question, but we both pretty much seem to think it will be Ian Frey, especially after what he showed as a substitute against Nashville. And then right midfield, it's a talking point, but we both think that Allende starts.
I think the only reason why Ian didn't start is because he did travel with Jamaica. So I think Cello is in serious trouble, man. I mean, I look forward to the end of the season part because I think there are going to be so many moving parts with this team. So many moving parts.
I think his performance levels have dipped as of late, especially as he's lost more and more minutes. All right, Jose. The question that a lot of people have at the tip of their tongue, on the minds. ¿Quién será el uno el viernes? Who is the number one in goal for Inter Miami? Before we give our opinions, I'm going to give you some time to sit and think, formulate your thoughts there. We're going to listen to Mascherano talk about Rocco Rios Novo, who has started each of the last 3 games for Inter Miami. This is what Mascherano said after the 5-2 victory over Nashville about this goalkeeper competition heading into the playoffs.
Bueno, un poco la decisión era que los últimos 3 partidos de la temporada decidimos darle esos 3 partidos a Rocco. Queríamos verlo, queríamos ver cómo respondía. Creo que como vos dijiste, ha respondido muy bien. Más allá de los 2 goles que concedimos, creo que ha tenido acciones importantes en las que nos ha ayudado, como nos ha ayudado Oscar durante toda la temporada. Al final, ahora analizaremos junto con Mauro, que es el entrenador de arqueros, y nada, lo que dije un poco durante estas semanas, bienvenido la competencia interna de saber bueno, que tenemos 2 arqueros en muy buen nivel y bueno, después tomaremos las decisiones que tengamos que tomar a ver quién es el arquero que va a atajar.
Quick translation, he says that they went into it thinking that Rocco would get starts during the last 3 games. At the end, he says, we'll take the decision. We'll see who wins the starting spot, who will be the goalkeeper in net on Friday. But that it's a healthy competition and that it's a welcome development for him as a coach and them as a team. Jose, who starts? And you told me today, but for the listening and viewing audience, who do you think starts and why?
Okay.
You can tell me who you would start, but I want you to tell me who you think Mascherano is going to go with.
Okay. I'm going to start with the easy part. Who I would start? I would start Ustari.
Okay.
I think Ustari is a much better goalkeeper than Rocco. I like experienced goalkeepers, so That's a huge disadvantage for Rocco right there. Now let's see how I can phrase this correctly. Let's see. I have to be responsible. I can't go very far with this.
I just gave you a minute and 10 seconds to formulate your thoughts, Jose. Come on, man. You know what? Tarjeta Maria por time wasting. Yellow card for time wasting. Jose Armando, yellow
That's
card.
my first
friend.
yellow of the season, so
It might be actually.
I won't carry any suspension, so I'm okay with it. I would start Ustari. I think Mascherano will start Rocco Rios Novo.
Okay. I agree with you that I think Mascherano goes with Rocco Rios Novo. I just don't think there is de una parte futbolística no hay explicación. I just, from a soccer standpoint, could not find a real reasoning or an explanation for why you would start Rocco Rios Novo during the final 3 games of the regular season to then just bench him when he hasn't played poorly in those 3 games for the start of the playoffs. I mean, when he responded to the question, he was thinking. He kind of did what you just did and stopped and paused for a second to come up with, in my opinion, my read on it, my supposition, my speculation, Pedri Potter, was that I think he was trying to find a way to leave it vague so as to not give up that sporting advantage for Nashville, create some doubt as to who would start, which clearly we're here talking about it. I think Rios Novo gets to start. I think if you were starting him these last 3 games, it's because you're going into the playoffs thinking he's the starter. Now, what did Ustari do to lose his place? Was he that poor before these last 3 matches that Rios Novo took turns in goal? I mean, he wasn't the same Ustari we've seen in other moments when he's been at the top of his game. I would probably agree with you. I'd probably start Ustari because while Rios Novo has been solid in the playoffs, experience does matter. I've covered a lot of playoffs with a lot of different teams, and I've seen all types of crazy shit happen, particularly with the Red Bulls when I was on the beat in New Jersey. And you want to avoid those type of mistakes that can really cost you a series.
Right.
Experience doesn't guarantee it, but odds are that you're going to usually avoid this type of self-inflicted wounds that an inexperienced player
absolutely
can make.
I think we have the perfect I think we have the perfect example this year. You remember what happened with Ustari the games prior to the Club World Cup, and then what happened during the Club World Cup? You know, Ustari during the Club World Cup for Inter Miami was one of the top players.
Absolutely, he was on the podium for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the reality is that especially as a goalkeeper, experience it's valuable. It's not about clean sheets and especially with Inter Miami. I mean, if you look at the record, Inter Miami concedes a goal almost every game. And there have been games where goalkeepers have had great performances, but yet they still concede a goal, whether it's early or late, in the middle, whatever. They always concede a goal. So I think Ustari, there's no way Rocco can compete with him because of the experience. Now, if Rocco had 5 or 10 years of experience, or
that's a different story. That's
it's different. Yeah, but at this point, it's not about the 2025 season or checking the stats for Rocco Rios Novo this season. No, it's about managing the moment, understanding the importance of each game. Ustari doesn't worry about half of the things that Rocco worries about right now because he's much younger. He's thinking about his future, having a good performance, whether he makes some mistakes that pretty much shapes up next season for him. Ustari's completely fine with his career as it is right now, so he can fully concentrate on the game. So yeah, 100% I would go with Ustari, but things happen.
Kala Burr says, if we went from debating Ustari versus Calendar all season just for Rocco to start in the playoffs, LOL, wild. That is true. That is true. I mean, I won't say all season because his calendar was on the outside looking in it. That became clear as time went on. But yeah, Rocco Rios Novo wasn't even in the conversation,
No.
and yet here we are in October on the cusp of the beginning of the playoffs, and he's an option. He's an option. It's going to be one of the biggest bets, de la más grande apuestas that Mascherano is going to make in this series. Because if he starts Ustari and Ustari plays well, then he got it right. If Ustari plays and he doesn't play well, then it's he went away from the hot hand. He went with the older goalkeeper that's not playing well or wasn't in his best run of form. If he does it the other way and Rocco Rios Novo plays well, then he made the right choice. He made the tough call, sat the veteran, rode the hot hand. But if Rios Novo struggles, then it's, well, why did you start the young guy when you had the experienced guy on the bench? I mean, Jose, is it just down to a dip in form, a dip in performance levels from Ustari that this is how Rocco even got to the starting spot in the first place? You're smiling. You're making faces over there. You're making the same face when they brought you that milanesa. You look really happy and giddy. What do you have to say?
I mean, I love a milanesa.
What was it just down to poor form? Poor Ustari, was he that bad? Do I not have this memory of him being that poor?
No, I don't think.
Can agree.
No.
I can say that he definitely wasn't at his highest level and he dipped a little bit. But was he that bad to lose the starting spot?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's not coming down to performance. And okay, let's think the way Mascherano wants us to think based on the information that he provided. He said there was a plan for 3 games for Rocco Rios Novo at the end of the season. Okay, how beneficial can that really be for the team? If that can lead you to believe as well that Ustari remains the starting goalkeeper. So you're basically preparing for a hypothetical situation where Ustari is not available for this team in the last, let's say 3 games, 4, 5, 6 games of the season. I mean, you can give him a game. I mean, he can play against Nashville, just in case. But I don't think a goalkeeper needs 3 matches. And that's you taking 3 matches away from your starter as well. Because now, if Ustari starts on Friday, then how far back do we have to go until his last game as a starter? Or actually, as a matter of fact, his last match played. So, I don't know. I have second thoughts about that. I've seen coaches, give goalkeepers a chance. I think we saw it with CJ Dos Santos, actually. But it was 1 game, not 3 games.
Not 3, which is why the only thing that I could think of as a possible football explanation would be that they wanted him tried and tested for the playoffs in the eventuality, in the possibility that Oscar Ustari goes out with an injury, gets red carded, that they had to rely on him. So they wanted to season him. That could be the only possible thought that I could have.
That's very dramatic, though. Very dramatic.
Exactly. But when it's 3 games leading into the playoffs, then that takes away that thought process, because ideally your starter, if it was going to be Ustari, would be playing at least the final game before the playoffs just to get those reps in, to make sure he's sharp. The fact, like you said, that he hasn't played in the last 3 games, this to me signals it's not something temporary, part of some bigger plan. I think it's Rocco Rios Novo has jumped ahead of him in the depth chart for whatever reason they've determined. Mascherano's been asked, and he, like you said in that comment, very diplomatic, doesn't lean one way or the other. He does not the type of coach that really likes to, I won't even say criticize his players, but he doesn't like to talk about negative aspects for players. He tries to avoid that because he doesn't want it to be perceived in a certain way, or he thinks it might be written or talked about in a certain way. But I mean, in my opinion, you could say, hey, look, he's at a good performance level, and that's why we went with him. But again, he avoids being that direct when it comes to these type of topics. Jose, Inter Miami wins on Friday. Yes or no?
Yes, they win on Friday. Yeah.
Okay. I agree. Now, we have to really quickly talk about two more players. One is Rodrigo de Paul. Is he an important, or is he a very important piece for Inter Miami in this playoff push?
He should be. He should be, but we're gonna have to see a much better performance because, as it stands right now, for me, he's just taking Yannick Bright's place. He's not providing a lot for this team. I think if you put Yannick Bright in his place, the team might actually play better. So I do believe at this stage in both of their careers, Rodrigo de Paul is a better player than Yannick Bright, but he's not showing it. Whether he's not understanding well the league, the intensity, the physicality, or whether he doesn't feel really comfortable with the system, whether he needs more training sessions. Remember, they played a lot over the week, and that narrows down the number of training sessions. And we know training sessions for this team are very tricky. They're not like the traditional training sessions for so many other teams, So I think he probably still needs a little bit of more time. But unfortunately, he came into a situation where this team really needs to win MLS. They need to win MLS, so there's going to be no excuse whether he was ready or not, whether he came in late or not. At this point, he's going to be judged by how many titles do they have on September 7th. That's it. If they have no titles,
September?
he's going to be
December.
part. December, should say. Sorry, December. He's going to be judged, and the rest of the team are going to be judged by that. So he needs to perform. I don't know how, when, where he needs to perform. He needs to provide something extra for this team as of right now. And if it ends up being true that he's going to earn 17 million starting next year, I don't see a situation where that is justified based on what we have seen from Rodrigo de Paul this year.
It's justified because it keeps Messi smiling. That's why it's justified. Eliezer Belcito 7133 says Inter Miami debe pasar en 2 juegos ya que no tienen piernas para jugar 3 juegos. So
That's
translation
fair.
is
Very good point.
Inter Miami should advance in 2 games because they don't have the legs to do it in 3. Let's listen to Rodrigo de Paul very quickly. I asked him today about whether he was pleased with his performance levels to date. This is what he had to say.
Mira, yo creo que en mi carrera, si hay algo que siempre tuve claro es que nunca me conformo. Siempre creo que todos podemos dar más por un montón de situaciones, desde el trabajo, desde la experiencia, desde el conocimiento. Hay un montón de factores que siempre van a ayudar a dar más, como conocer un grupo de trabajo, como la experiencia de conocer la liga, los rivales, y después siento que eso está en cada uno. Yo en mi carrera y lo que he hecho es porque nunca me conformé, creo que eso fue un motor en mi vida, así que ya te digo, creo que siempre se puede dar más.
He says he thinks you can always give more. He talks about, he didn't say it directly, but he talks about kind of an adaptation period, learning the new system around you, the players, the opponents. It sounded like almost like he was indirectly saying, this is why I'm maybe not at to my level. It almost sounded like that's what he was indirectly saying. And look, I think at the beginning of his time here, a lot of the games he played in was as a right midfielder because they wanted Yannick Bright in that double pivot in the 4-4-2 Mascherano did. So I think that also definitely hindered him a bit. I think in this game against Nashville, again, Nashville, in my opinion, dropped off. Inter Miami improved. And I thought Rodrigo de Paul was better in the second half, was more influential. he needs to be influential if Inter Miami is going to avoid having as many defensive struggles as they've had. He has to be that blanket in front of the back four, that resistance that Busi cannot be. If he's going to start and he's going to start in the middle of the park, that's what he has to be. If he's unable to do that, if he struggles to track back, which we've seen in other games, albeit from a different position, then I think one, Inter Miami is going to struggle even more so defensively, and two, the criticism will continue to grow with regards to Rodrigo de Paul and the level he's demonstrated, because it has not been overwhelmingly positive. Last player we'll touch on here, we're going over a little bit over the time limit, so that's a yellow card for me here in a few minutes. It's just Jordi Alba. Since the last pod, we knew he had announced his retirement, but we actually got to speak to him about it. We'll just quickly summarize. You know, he doesn't have an interest in coaching. Sounds like he's going to be doing some sporting director or some executive type of role with El Hospitalet, which is in his hometown in Spain. Sounds like that's what his future holds for him. That's what he indicated to us after his ceremony, which happened in the aftermath of the 4-0 win over Atlanta United at Chase Stadium. He was asked about the decision, because this decision comes 5 months after he signed a new deal, a multi-year deal. And he almost abrasively just kept saying and avoiding being directive with his response, pretty much just saying, I changed my mind. I changed my mind. And you know, the questions we asked, why did you change your mind? What led to this decision? And all he would say was, you're allowed to, you know, like anybody, they can change their mind from one day to another. I changed my mind over the course of a few months. Never really got in the weeds about why he's calling it quits. And I think one of the more revealing comments, which will be the last soundbite we hear on this episode, is when I asked him if this was in part due to mentally not being tuned in anymore, because that's something Busquets talked about, you know, the sacrifice, not having weekends, the traveling, the training every day. You know, is that part of it something that he didn't want to do anymore? And his response is, in short, that physically he feels he could keep playing for another year or two. So then that leaves you to read in between the lines as to what happened. But let's listen to his response in full, and then we'll close out the show with our thoughts on that.
No, obviamente, ¿no? Al final son muchas cosas, no solo futbolísticamente. Al final, pues bueno, creo que estoy dando un buen nivel, creo que puedo seguir jugando a nivel, bueno, físico, pues a lo mejor un año o dos más, pero bueno, creo que es el momento justo, no hay que darle muchas más vueltas, ¿no? O sea, es decir, es una decisión mía, personal, que bueno, lo llevo meditando también bastante tiempo, no ha sido de un día para otro, y bueno, lo hablé primero con el club, obviamente, al final es una decisión muy personal y obviamente pues te da pena, ¿no?, dejar el fútbol, pero me va a dar pena dentro de un año, dentro de 2, dentro de 5 y dentro de 10, ¿no? Pero la sensación que tengo es que lo he hecho con muchísima convicción, meditado, o sea que al final es una decisión que lo tengo muy claro.
It's a decision that he has very clear. It's just a personal decision. It's no hay que darle mucha vuelta. There's not much to dissect. There's not much to talk about there, is what he said. Jose, do you buy that? That's a Milanesa face. That's Milanesa Jose face. You're lucky you already have some nicknames, bro, because otherwise Milanesa Jose would stick.
I know. No. I mean, there's more to it. There is more. I think there's more that's just, you know, that part of the game where, you know,
codes, locker room codes.
Right. Yeah, that should stay in house. But yeah, there's more to the story. Look, I think from the outside I would say it's the right decision, because is it going to change our perception of Jordi Alba if he stays in MLS for 1 or 2 more years? What can he really get out of it? I mean, he played the Club World Cup this year. I think that was the perfect way, to close this out. This experience here. Obviously, they were not in it to win it, but they did have a good performance in the Club World Cup. And if they win MLS, then he goes on as a champion. If not, it doesn't really matter, for him in terms of his career as a whole. Obviously, for Inter Miami, the club itself, it's different. But for him, I think he can call it a career, and everybody will be fine with it. But I think there's more to the story for sure.
I agree with you. Pedri Potter here in the comment section, once again having a go, says speculation. Here we go again. Look, I'm going to call you Pedri Potter face value or Pedri Potter naive, because not everything that someone tells you is true. And you can tell by the way he avoided direct responses as to why he's making a decision when he says, I can play from futbolisticamente, I can play 2 more years, 1 year, 2 more years, that it's not a soccer decision. There's more to the story. Whether he wants to share it or not, there's more to the story. What it could be, we don't know because we don't have the information. We haven't gotten the information, at least not yet. But it's fair to speculate. Aren't you, Mr. Free Speech? Come on, man. Come on.
No, but I think it's fair because, fans are used to listening and knowing the players as they portray during press conferences or during interviews. But, it's what we see before, after. Sometimes there are several situations in which a player is all seriousness in front of the camera, in the microphone. Everything is turned off and it's a completely different personality. But, sometimes that's the way they're taught. You have to be serious. You have to be careful of what you say. And especially in Inter Miami, you really have to be careful of what you say. So,
but that was probably as serious as I've seen Jordi Alba in an interview during his time here. And it was, talking about a light subject overall, but it seemed like the questions and the trying to find out why he made the decision kind of bothered him. Because in other times, Jordi's actually kind of jokes around, is a little more smiley, will banter a little bit more, even though he's very professional and
right.
he answers in a serious and professional manner. He has a different predisposición. He has a different disposition. And in this one, he was pretty a little almost guarded. But anyway, that's
what I'm saying.
That's from our journalistic seat. I don't expect Pedri Potter to
not
necessarily agree.
Absolutely.
Not everybody's going to agree with that.
Yeah.
We'll just read a few comments before we wrap up. Nader10LM says it's obvious him and Boosie know the project failed and they don't trust the ownership and are tired of traveling and the BS MLS roster rules. Cada Burr says his wife wanted him to stop. I think Nick Smith says the MLS travel is no joke, especially with so many tourneys. The loner says these guys create a lot of speculation out of nothing. All right. And then Garth Taylor, 6327. Are you implying someone is forcing Jordi out? Stancy says, I agree that there's something going on behind the scenes. So see, some people agree with us. Some people don't. Now, you could just call us alarmistas if you want. You could call us untrustworthy or whatever the case is. It just depends on your viewpoint, how you see things. All right. We will leave it there. Yellow card for me because we went over by almost 10 minutes, which I try not to do anymore these days, but whatever. We had 2 weeks of stuff to catch up on and a playoff series to talk about. So, Jose, we might have a show on Thursday in Spanish. I don't know what your schedule looks like, but I might try to do it. It's playoff time. I know that there's a certain segment of the fan base that wants to, and the audience that wants to hear a show, un programa en español, so I might try to make it happen. If it can't be with you, maybe with Andrea or Alonso, or maybe a special guest. My little special guest, she's sleeping now. She calmed down, so she will not be making her debut on Miami Total Football Radio. We'll leave it for maybe Thursday or some other time. Jose, we'll see what happens on Friday night. Maybe we'll be back on Thursday, you and I, but if not, we'll see how Inter Miami starts its playoff push. We will definitely be back next week as we get back into a regular pattern here on the show with the playoffs kicking into full gear. So, for Jose Armando, aka Island Jose, aka Cinco, aka Milanesa Jose. I am Franco Panizo. Thank you all in the comment section for tuning in late on this Tuesday night with us. All the comments, all the interactions, all the engagement. It's always a treat. We will be back soon. I will keep you guys up to date on social media as to when exactly. But that will do it for now. Have a great night. We'll talk to you guys in a few days.